Hey there, quick note before we get started. If you like content like this and would like to see us produce more, then please click on that subscribe link as we're trying to increase our subscriptions. Thank you. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to do another playthrough in our Root series using the Clockwork Expansion, which is the automated bots for solo play. And I thought what we would do is do another matchup between the cats, the Marquise De Cat, and the Electric Eyrie bot using the latest rules, which we'll talk a little bit about more in a second, but I'm going to assume that you're familiar with those. But the main difference is we're going to use this variation map. So this is the Mountains map that comes part of the Underworld Expansion. And there are two unique things here. I guess three for this map. The first is, which if you're familiar with the base game and the Winterside map, you randomly set up these suits for each of the clearings. So that's one special thing with this map. The second is it has a series of these tiles that cover different sections of the map. They cover different paths, actually. And the rule is, if you want, once per turn during daylight, within the daylight phase, you can spend a card, so you're actually going to discard a card from your hand to remove one of the closed paths and return it off the board. If you do, you get a victory point for doing so, and then obviously you gain adjacency between the two. Now the other stipulation is you have to rule. Actually, I don't know if you have to. Let me just see. Do you have to rule? No, you don't have to rule. You just have to have presence in one of the clearings connected to this blockage. And then the third custom thing about this map is this little wooden piece right here. So this space is called the pass, and basically whoever rules this space at the end of evening gets an extra victory point, gets a victory point. So a couple little unique things happening with this board, and I thought we'd give it a shot. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I have the board all set up here. I went ahead and put my recruiter here because I want to be able to defend this middle section as much as we can. And I've drawn our three cards. Unfortunately, no wilds here, so we're not going to get an extra action. We do have a couple crafting opportunities. Our workshop is in a mouse, so we might actually take advantage of this one right away, but let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and put a wood out in that first area. And let's see. So now during daylight, I think we will go ahead and craft. So I will craft this item, and that gets us a point. And it adds the satchel to our player board. And again, in case you're not familiar about playing with these bots, obviously I'm not playing with the Vagabond or the Vagabot, so crafting the items doesn't do a whole lot, except what it does is, in addition to getting me a point, it limits the amount of items that are available for the Eyrie to craft. And one of the things that they do during Birdsong is they get a free craft if they draw any item that is craftable. So by taking the items away from them, then potentially the theory is at least that you're limiting the amount of items they can craft. So that is our daylight first stage, and now we get three actions. So I think what I'll do is I will spend the wood to build another recruiting station, which gets us another point. and I'm going to build it here in 10. We're going to basically try to beef up here so that we can push the Eyrie and keep them down. We'll see what that happens. So action 1 is to build that recruiter, which gave us a point. Action 2, I will go ahead and recruit. And action 3, let's go ahead and either do a march or, yeah, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of choices here. So we will do a march, and we'll triple up what we have here. And then we'll also go ahead. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're just going to move from here to here. So kind of bringing some pressure down. All right. So that concludes our daylight phase. Now we will draw a card as part of evening, and we got a fox card. All right. And we don't have 5 cards, so we are all set with our hand. So now it is the Electric Eirie's turn. So for this first turn, like always, I'll spend a little more time going in depth into how to run the AI, but and then I'll kind of briefly do it moving forward. So the first thing you do for the Electric Eyrie is you reveal an order card. And all that means is draw the top card from the deck. They don't actually have a hand, so every turn you're just going to draw a new card from the deck. So they drew this card here. All that really matters is the suit and whether there's anything here to craft. And so since there isn't, we skip over number 2, and we simply add this card to their decree, and that concludes Birdsong. So now, during daylight, we go ahead and we resolve the decree. And the biggest difference between the latest rules, which you can see are taped here, and the original rules that come with it out of the gate are, instead of resolving the decree basically each column at a time, you do it by complete rows. And what I mean by that is the original rules, you used to recruit in this column, then move in this column, then battle in this column, and then move on to this column and do recruit, move, battle, recruit, move, battle, recruit, move, battle. And now what you do is you actually recruit, 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 move, 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 battle, 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 battle. And long story short, that was introduced to eliminate a couple scenarios where you could have a deadlock state on the board where the Eyrie kind of grinds to a halt and doesn't get anything done. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with the fox column. And the first thing we're going to do is recruit. And basically, you look for any fox destinations, clearings, that have a roost in them. And we actually do have one. We have one right here. So we'll go ahead and recruit warriors equal to the cards in the column in a matching clearing with a roost. And then for each of these, there are some tiebreakers, which we'll get into as we encounter ties. But for now, we'll go ahead and just put one bird out in clearing 3. All right. Then we'll go ahead and recruit over here. So this column's wild, and basically there's more tiebreakers for the wild column because you have to figure out which clearing it's even talking about. But again, in this case, it's pretty straightforward. They only have one clearing with a roost, so the wild column will inevitably come down to this fox clearing. So we're just going to add 2 more birds here. And once again, the reason it's 2 is because there are 2 cards in this column. So that concludes recruit, and now we will go ahead and do our move action. Now move, it says, from a matching clearing you rule with the most Eyrie warriors. That's where you're moving from, and then you're moving to an adjacent clearing with no roost. And then there's some tiebreakers and qualifications there. But the purpose is the Electric Eyrie need to continue to move and take over clearings that don't have roosts, because that's how they go into turmoil. They go into turmoil if they can't place a roost in their turn. So they're very motivated with their moves to spread out and go after places where they don't already have a roost. So in this case, they can move in two different places. They can move from 3 to 6 or 3 to 11. So we do have to dig into a couple of the tiebreakers. And it says you're first going to move to such a clearing with the fewest enemy pieces and then lowest priority. So both of these only have one enemy piece, so that's a tie. So then we're going to fall back to lowest priority. And in this case, the lower priority is 11. Generally in this game, highest priority is 1 and lowest priority is 12. So the lower priority between 11 and 6 is 11. So that being said, they are going to move, and they move everyone that they can, but they leave behind enough warriors to match the number of cards in the column, so 1, or enough warriors so that they rule the clearing, whichever one is greater. So in this case, they moved everybody but 1 because there's only 1 card in the fox column. All right, so now we move on to moving for the wild column. So in this case, if we were to follow it again, you're going to move from a matching clearing, which they all match now because it's wild, with the most Eyrie warriors. So obviously that's 11. They're going to move out of 11 and into a adjacent space with no roost. So in this case, there are 3, 10, 5, and 2. So the tiebreakers are least enemy pieces, which leaves 2 or 5. And then, oh, no, I'm sorry. I have a workshop here. So they're going to move up to 2. And we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, and they're leaving behind 3 warriors because, they're leaving behind 2 warriors because this column only has 2 cards in it. And they still rule this clearing, so that's why they're leaving behind 2. So that concludes the movement phase, and now finally we will battle. So in this case, we're going to battle in a fox territory. However, there are no battles in a fox territory. This is the only fox territory where they're present, and as you can see, we're not there. So they're going to skip that battle altogether and do this battle. And this battle, the way that you resolve the tie between 11 and 2 is using the tiebreakers here, which is battle in such a clearing with no roost, then most defenseless buildings, and then lowest priority. So there's no roost in either of these, and there's actually no defenseless buildings in either of these. So lowest priority is going to be this one here. So this is where they're going to battle. Now there's one other rule that I'll call out, which is if this column has the most cards, deal 1 extra hit, and it does. So this is the column with 2, and since it has the most cards, they actually get an extra hit, which they're probably not going to need in this case, but it definitely could become relevant later on. So we'll go ahead and roll. Wow, and they clearly took us out. We did, unfortunately, no damage in return. So they are all set here. And that concludes the first part of their daylight phase. And now the second part of their daylight phase is to build a roost in a clearing that they control, where there are no roosts, which they just got, this one here. And now they are all set. Oh, you know what? Quick correction. It actually says to build a roost in a clearing they rule of highest priority with no roost. So because they rule this clearing, this is actually going to move to there. Okay. So that concludes their daylight phase, and now they get 1 point because they built one roost. And now it is our turn once again. Okay, one other quick correction. We forgot to get our point for ruling the pass, so we will take that now. Because as you're familiar with this bot, we need as many points as we can get here because they escalate out of control quickly. So it is our turn. We're going to place a wood at the sawmill and decide whether we want to craft. We did get a new item that I think we should craft, so we will. We happen to have our workshop in the mouse territory, and we just drew this item, and it seems like it's worthwhile. So we'll go ahead and craft a tea kettle, and that gets us 2 more points. All right, so now we get 3 actions. I'm tempted to leave these here for the time being because I do think it will prohibit their ability to come and squeeze us out. So, if anything, I might get rid of some of these that are out of the way just to get some points and encourage some movement on our side. But for now, I'm going to leave those in place. So we will go ahead and build another sawmill in this location here. Actually, let's build it here. Okay, great. And with that sawmill, actually, we have to be a little bit strategic with these blockages because now, for example, over here, we no longer have a path to wood because they now rule clearings 11 and 2. So that's a little bit interesting. This guy's kind of abandoned and isolated. So we need to be a little bit careful about that happening in the future. So anyhow, we did our build. That required a wood, and that got us 1 point for building a new sawmill. And now, I think for our second action, we're going to try to get a little bit aggressive here. So I'm going to do another recruit. And for our third action, let's go ahead and do a move, or a march rather, obviously. And I really want to prevent them from leaving here because it looks like this is going to be a bottleneck for them. They need to come this way since this is blocked right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a march and march both of these 1, 2. So then at least we have a nice defense there to hopefully slow them down. So that concludes our 3 actions. I wish we had a wild because I would do another overwork probably and get some more wood in preparation for next turn, but we don't. So at this case, I will just draw 1 card, which is another mouse with no crafting. And with that, we will turn it over to the Electric Eyrie. So they're going to draw their decree card. It has nothing to craft, so they're going to just load it into their decree. And we'll run through it right now. So the first thing they're going to do is recruit 2 and a fox. So 2 to this fox. Then they're going to recruit 2 to a wild, and the wild destination is going to be most enemy pieces, which will be here. So they're going to recruit 2 more there. Okay. Now they're going to move. So moving from a fox to an adjacent with no roost. So in this case, they're going to move either here or here. And the way that we'll break that tie will be, it's going to be fewest enemy pieces. So they are going to move 1, and they're leaving 2 behind because there's 2 cards in that column. And now they're going to move here. And where they're moving from is the most warriors. So they're going to move from 2 to a place with no roost, which neither of these have. They're going to actually come back to 11 is what they're going to do. And they're going to pull back all but 2. All right. And finally, we will battle. So first for a fox battle, there isn't any, so we'll skip it. And then for the wild battle, obviously it's just going to be here. This does no longer has the most cards because there's a tie. So now at least they don't get the extra hit, but I don't think it's going to really matter. It doesn't. They take me out. And that concludes their daylight phase. All right. So yeah, I think they're preparing for their next movement to obviously be, now that they have a roost here and here, they're going to come for me. So let's see what we can do. First, they're going to build a roost here. And that gets them 2 points. And now it is our turn. Okay, and once again, we forgot to take the turn or the point for owning the pass our last turn. So we'll move us up to 7. And we'll start our turn. So I think... So here's the thing. We know they're going to come into 5 or 10. And the way the logic works is they're going to come into whichever one has the fewest enemy pieces. So our 2 choices are to lure them into 5, just so that we can make sure that we continue to rule 10 as much as possible, or just keep them even, and if they're even, well, they go to lowest priority, which is 10. So we don't really want that. So I think what we'll do is we'll first obviously get the wood out. So we have 2 new wood. Then from a crafting perspective, we can't do anything. Our only crafting is this, and we don't have a workshop and a fox. So with our 3 actions, let's go ahead and do a recruit. And this alone will automatically push them into territory 5. So that's where the first battle will be, which I'm okay with. So we did our recruit. I do want to get a build out, and I want to build a workshop. Oh, you know what? It may not have been a wise move to move out of here because we don't rule it anymore, and we can't build. But that's okay. So I'm gonna spend the 2 wood to actually build another sawmill down here. So that gets us 2 points. And then what I'll do, that was our second action. And then for our third action, I will march. So we'll backfill here. And then we'll put these 2 guys here. So we're really going to have a defensive stance at the pass. I think we'll do 2 more things. The first is during evening, we're going to get 1 card, which is a fox. The other is we're going to get our point for ruling the pass. And the third is I am going to start to remove some of these blockages. So I'll discard. It says to discard any card. So I'm going to discard this ambush card that we just got, actually, because we can't use ambushes against the bots anyways. And discard this piece to get another point. All right, so that concludes our turn. And now it is their turn. And they drew a bunny with no crafting. So they're going to load that in. And let's see if our plan worked here. Here we go. So the first thing they're going to do is recruit 2 and a fox. Done. 1 and a bunny. Done. 2 in a wild. And the wild tiebreaker is going to be most enemy pieces, which are none. So then fewest Eyrie warriors, which would be up there. Okay. Perfect. Now we're going to move. So we're going to move 2 from the fox. And the destination is going to be fewest enemy pieces, lowest priority. So that's going to take them over to 12 again. So they're actually really ignoring 6 here. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They're not ignoring 6 because they want to move to no roost. So this is where they're going to come up here now. Because there is no roost yet in 6, and that's always their first priority. So that makes a lot more sense. So they're going to do that. That's their fox movement. Now their bunny movement is going to be the exact same thing. So they're going to move 4 down to here. No roost. That's their priority. And finally, their wild movement is going to be most Eyrie warriors. So it's going to be from here to 5, just like we suspected. And unfortunately, they're bringing the pain. This is going to be all but 2. So it's going to be a little bit of a bird. Okay. Whew. All right, now we're going to battle. So there are no battles in foxes, so we'll ignore that one. There are no battles in bunnies, so we'll ignore that. So really, we're just going to have one battle out of these two. And the way that we're going to break the tie for this wild clearing of battle is... lowest priority. So that is going to be this one. So the battle will wait to be waged in 5, which actually might give us an opportunity to do an end around on them. But we're going to have to see that in a second, because first they're going to take us out here, and they do. We get one retaliatory blow, but they did take us out, and now they get to build a roost. And with that, they get 3 more points. And that concludes their turn. So, it's our turn. I'm going to place out our wood. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we need to get some buildings out quickly here. Let's go ahead and build a workshop here. That gets us 1 wood used and 2 points. Excellent. Now, let's build, let's see here. This interests me significantly. Unfortunately, we didn't build it last turn, and actually it's very hard to build. I mean, we would need 2 more workshops and mice, so we're not going to be able to build that anytime soon. But I will build another recruiting station, so 2 more wood used to put a recruiting station here. We'll move it. Yeah, that's fine. And then for our last action, I think we will recruit. Yeah, we will. So 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. We got 2 more points for building that. Now it's evening, so we're going to get 1 point for controlling the pass. I am going to go ahead and... No, I'm not. I don't want to remove this because I don't want to give them a way in, and I don't want to remove this for the same reason. So I will end our turn there by drawing 2 cards. We got another bunny. Mouse. And a wild, finally. So that could be good. Next turn might be when we try to clear out some of these birds. They're going to be in trouble here unless they can build a roost in clearing 5 next turn. This turn. They're not going to be able to... they'll have to go to turmoil. So let's see how we did. First, for their turn, they're going to draw a card. It is another bunny. And it did have a craftable item on it. So we will craft a tea kettle. Unfortunately, there is one left. That gets them a point. And now we will resolve their decree. So first thing is recruiting 2 birds in a fox territory with a roost. which is only here. Second is recruiting 2 birds, but they only have 1 in a bunny territory with a roost. Right there. So that concludes their recruiting. Now we will move on to moving. So they're going to move from fox to a clearing with no roost. Now there isn't one. So in that case, it moves the to lowest priority. So they're going to move like this. That's the fox movement. Now the bunny movement is going to be the same thing. Oh, but there are 2 bunnies there, so they're not going to move because there's 2 cards here. So they want to leave 2 bunnies behind, just like they left 2 foxes behind. So they're all set with the movement phase. And now here, oh, interesting. Interesting birds. They're going to leave 5. Interesting. So they are going to leave 5 before they've won it, which makes a lot of sense, but I did not have the forethought to come up with that. So they're going to move wherever they have the most warriors, which is 5, and they're going to move to an adjacent clearing with no roost, right here. So they're actually going to only leave 2 warriors behind. This may be it, guys. We may be able, guys and girls, we may be able to stop them from building a roost this turn. Let's see what happens. That was their movement, and now their battle. So they are going to battle in a fox, which this happens to be. And then they're going to battle in a mouse. Okay, so the first battle in a fox. 2-0. We lose 2 guys. They lose nothing. Shame. A bunny battle. There are no bunny battles happening. A bird battle. So this bird battle is going to take place in 10 again, because the third tiebreaker is lowest priority. So it is going to take place in 10 again. Come on, let's get some birds out. 1-3. But thankfully, we did stop them. So they can't build a roost this turn because there's no, even though they rule here, there's no unoccupied spaces for the roost. Now they do rule, so unfortunately, we'll go like that. But one correction. They actually don't rule because when they moved, they weren't going to move all of these guys. They wanted to leave enough guys to still rule this clearing, which now they do. So the actual scenario here is going to be this, and we still rule it. All right. So that is the board state, and now all of a sudden they go into turmoil. So the turmoil steps are very similar to the multiplayer version, but basically they're going to lose 1 victory point per bird card, including viziers, on the decree. So that's 6 points. Ouch. And then we're going to discard everyone but the 2 wild. And they immediately go into evening, which gives them 3 points. So that worked out pretty well. I think we need to make sure that we can stop them here. Luckily, they don't have a roost, so they're not going to be building more, recruiting more there, but they are going to be funneling guys up from 11 continuously. So let's see how this plays out. Our turn, we're going to put out some wood. 3 wood. From a crafting standpoint, we are going to craft this anvil, because we have a workshop in a fox territory. You know what? 1 second here. I think our other option... Do we want to do that? Yeah, we do. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up a slight bit, and I'm going to use this fox instead to use our field hospital. And the 3 cats that just died, they'll come back into territory 1. So that will help us. And so I'm not going to craft that. And so, in fact, I'm not going to craft at all then. So we're going to skip over crafting, and now we're going to take 3 actions, which we do get a 4th because we have this wild card. So 4 actions. We're definitely going to build another recruiting station. So this is going to require all 3 wood. And we're going to build this recruiting station here. Okay? So that gets us 3 points. Then we're going to battle in 5. Yeah. March. No. Let's go ahead and march from 1 to 10. Then we're going to battle in 10. Nope, we're going to recruit first with our 3rd action. And then with our 4th action, we'll spend this card to battle in 10. 2 to 1. Excellent. So we kicked them out. And we're in good position once again. In 10, we rule the pass, so we get an extra point. And that leads us then to evening, which will draw 2 cards, a fox with a crafting, and a mouse with a crafting. All right. All right. It is now their turn. They have an empty decree, which is going to help us significantly. They're drawing a new bunny. No crafting item. No crafting item. So let's get them started. First, they're going to recruit into a bunny. They only have 1. Right there. Done. Now they're going to recruit into a wild territory, and that's going to be most enemy pieces, which isn't any. They don't have a roost in 5. So the next is going to be fewest Eyrie warriors, which is way back here. So that doesn't make a lot of sense, Eyrie. They're scared. Okay. Next, they're going to move from a bunny over to here. So again, just to fast forward, there isn't an adjacent place that doesn't have a roost, so they're going to fall back to lowest priority, which will be here. And then finally, they're going to move on this wild, where they ever have the most warriors. to an adjacent no roost. So they're going to come up from 11 to either 10 or 5. And the tiebreaker is going to be fewest enemy pieces, which will be 5. So they're going to move a lot of these guys up here. So we might lose 5 here. Battles, there's no bunny battles, so there will be a battle here. Now we're back into the scenario where this is the most cards, this column. So they do get an extra hit, which is going to really hurt. Here we go. Oh, well, could have been a lot worse. So they take out 2 of our guys because of the extra hit, but luckily we still stand in clearing 5. Then they get to, painful. They weren't able to get us out of here, so they can't build a roost. So they're they're humiliated once again. They lose 3 points, and they go right to evening, where they gain the 3 points back. But that was critical. I mean, to me, it seems like we might be able to clinch this game by just keeping 5 in a stalemate. Let's go ahead and do our turn. So we're going to drop 3 wood. We're going to look for a crafting opportunity, of which we do have one. That interests me. It's this one here. So we will craft that using our mouse workshop to make a satchel and get us a point. Now we will try to build like crazy, and maybe even win this turn. So I think what we'll do is first we're going to overwork and put another, we're going to discard a card here to put another 3 wood out. And let's go ahead and build, we will build a sawmill here for 3 points using 3 wood. And another sawmill here using 3 wood. And that gets us 4 more points. Oh, so close. We do rule the pass. So that's another 1 point. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to take the win in a cheap fashion. We are going to remove this by spending a card, and that gets us a point for the win. So we did it. We finally beat the Electric Eyrie. I mean, obviously, I think the map helped a lot. But either way, it was a fun game because there was some new strategy involved with this map itself in terms of how to keep them contained. And, I think we did a good job of that in trying to understand where they're going to come into and keeping them a little bit suppressed. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and give us a like, and we'll see you next time.